Hey everybody, Ray Cole here. Welcome back to Legend Audio. Today we're doing something special. I've put together a list of 12 vintage speakers you must hear before you die. These aren't crazy, rare million-dollar speakers that only rich collectors can touch. I wanted to focus on the ones that real people can actually find and afford, yet they still deliver that jaw-dropping, heart-pounding, life-changing sound that makes you fall in love with music all over again. We're talking about iconic designs, unique sonic signature, and absolute legends from the golden age of American hi-fi. Some of them are so good that you'll be shocked at how incredible they sound, even by today's standards. And as always, I'll tell you exactly which amplifier or receiver I would personally pair with each one to make them truly sing. The crazy thing is, many of these speakers are still surprisingly affordable, sometimes even cheap on the used market. But they deliver an experience that completely punches way above their price. You're not just getting good sound, you're getting pure magic for a fraction of what similar performance would cost you today. This is going to be a lot of fun, so hit subscribe, grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's dive right in. Baby Advent, the Little Giant Killer. Let's kick this list off with a little bitty giant killer, the Baby Advent. Man, this tiny bookshelf speaker from the early 1980s is one of those speakers that never fails to put a huge smile on people's faces. Every time we set up an A/B test on the wall, I put on the Baby Advent and wait for the reaction. People look at me shocked and say, "Wait, that's the only speaker playing right now," and I just smile and say, "Yep, this little two-way bookshelf was a massive seller back in the day, and for good reason. It's small, unassuming, but it punches way above its weight class. The balance on these things is just fantastic. Nothing is overly bright. Nothing is bloated in the bass. And the mid-range is smooth and natural. It's the kind of speaker you can listen to for hours without getting ear fatigue, compared to a lot of modern small speakers that try too hard to sound big and end up sounding harsh. The Baby Advent stays honest and musical. It's like that quiet friend who doesn't say much, but everything he says just makes sense. For smaller rooms, bedrooms, dense offices, or even a cozy living room, these are pretty much perfect. If you're in a bigger space, just add a small subwoofer and you're golden. But honestly, in the right room, they can stand alone and still impress. One thing I love is how well they work with vintage gear. Since I've become a big Realistic fan lately, I think the Realistic STA-90 is an awesome match. It gives them just the right amount of warmth and control. But really, any solid entry-level receiver from the 1970s will drive these little guys beautifully. You don't need a monster amp to make them sing. Look, don't let the name Baby fool you. There's nothing small about the sound coming out of these speakers. They prove that great audio isn't always about size. It's about smart design and great engineering. If you ever come across a clean pair of Baby Advents, do yourself a favor and grab them. You won't regret it. Don't forget to subscribe for the rest of the list. All right, that was our little giant. Next up is another classic that's been winning hearts for decades. KLH Model 5, the relaxed East Coast legend. Next up on the list is a true classic, the KLH Model 5. This speaker came out in 1968, and right from the start, it turned heads. It's a proper three-way design with a 10-inch woofer, two mid-range drivers, and a tweeter, all packed into a heavy, beautifully made walnut cabinet with that signature angled front. Back then, it was considered a premium speaker, not some cheap bookshelf. It was KLH's serious attempt to take on the big boys like Acoustic Research. What hits you first when you listen to these is how incredibly easy and relaxed they are on the ears. The mid-range is just so smooth and natural. Vocals sit right in the sweet spot with this silky texture that makes you want to keep listening. The highs are detailed, but never harsh. And the bass is tight, controlled, and surprisingly musical. I've had sessions where I put on jazz or acoustic tracks and completely lost track of time. It's one of those speakers that disappears and just lets the music flow. A lot of guys on the forums and in reviews say the same thing. You can listen to the Model 5 all day long without any fatigue. On the plus side, the build quality is excellent. The sound is refined and balanced, and it images really well for its size. The downside, it won't shake the walls with chest-pounding bass in a big room. So if you like to crank it up loud in a large space, you might want to add a sub. Some early pairs can also sound a little bright until they get some hours on them. These are perfect for medium-sized rooms and for people who love jazz, vocal music, folk, or anything where you really want to hear the texture and emotion in the recording. If I'm pairing them, I reach for the Harman Kardon 730 Twin. That receiver has the perfect mix of power and warmth that makes the KLH Model 5 really sing clean, effortless, and super musical. This is East Coast hi-fi at its finest, refined, honest, and still sounds fantastic today. Subscribe for more hidden audio treasures. All right, moving on to a speaker that's the complete opposite in personality, JBL L100, fun in a box. Here comes one of the most legendary party speakers ever made, the JBL L100 Brenk. This speaker exploded onto the scene in the early 1970s and became an absolute icon with its 1-2-inch woofer, aggressive horn-loaded mid-range, and tweeter. And that famous colorful foam grill orange is still the most wanted color by far. The L100 was designed to be noticed. It was JBL's big statement for the bring the concert home era. And men, it delivered. When you fire these up, they hit you right in the chest. These things love power, and they practically dare you to turn it louder. The bass is big, punchy, and tight. The mids are forward and full of life, and the highs cut through with real energy. Throw on some rock, funk, or a live album, and it feels like the band is playing in your living room. I've experienced it myself and heard so many owners say the same. You start at normal volume and the L100 just taunts you. Come on, man. Is that all you got? Give them more gas and they keep on going strong without breaking a sweat. They're incredibly dynamic and tough as nails. On the plus side, these speakers are insanely fun, built like a tank, and can take a serious beating without complaining. The dynamics are just fantastic. The downside is they really need a good amount of clean power to sound their best. If you don't feed them enough juice, they can sound a bit restrained. And if the amp isn't right, they can get shouty or harsh in the upper mids. They're also not the most neutral or laid-back speakers if you prefer a super smooth, relaxing sound. These speakers absolutely shine in a medium to large room. When you want to crank the music up loud, they're perfect for raw, live recordings, or just having a blast. They're not the best choice for tiny apartments or late-night critical listening, though. My favorite pairing for the L100 is the Pioneer SX 1250. That beast of a receiver has exactly the muscle and warmth these speakers crave. Together, they recreate that classic blown-away poster feeling. You'll literally feel like you're getting blasted out of your chair. All right, next we're stepping back into something a little more refined and legendary. Acoustic Research AR3A, the speaker that changed everything. From one of the wildest party speakers ever, we now move to something completely different, a true game changer in hi-fi. The Acoustic Research AR3. This speaker came out in the late 1960s and completely changed what people expected from bass in a home speaker. It's a three-way design with that famous acoustic suspension system. On the outside, it looks pretty simple. Linen grill, wooden box. Nothing flashy. But inside, it's something special. What always gets me is how smooth and natural these things sound. The bass is deep, rich, and surprisingly tight without any boom. The mid-range is warm and incredibly lifelike voices, and instruments have this beautiful, organic feel. The highs are sweet and easy on the ears. It's the kind of speaker that makes you want to close your eyes and just sink into the music. I've had many long listening sessions where time just disappears. A lot of people who own them say the same thing. It's one of the most non-fatiguing and musical speakers they've ever heard. The cabinet is really well made, and this design influenced so many speakers that came after it. The only real downsides are that it needs a decent amount of power because it's not very efficient. And after all these years, most pairs need new foam surrounds. Also, some people think it looks a bit plain, kind of an ugly duckling on the outside. These are fantastic for serious listening, especially acoustic music, jazz, vocals, or classical. In a medium to large room, my dream pairing is the Dynaco ST70 tube amp with a Pass-2 preamp. That warm tube sound blends so beautifully with the AR3A's natural character. It's smooth, buttery, and just incredibly enjoyable for hours. Even though it doesn't look like much at first glance, the AR3A still blows people away with how musical it is. A true classic, Bose 901, the most controversial speaker ever. Hey everybody, we just left a true legend. Now let's talk about one of the most loved or hated speakers in audio history, the Bose 901. When Dr. Amar Bose introduced these back in 1968, he basically said, forget everything you know about traditional speakers. Each pair has 18 little 3-inch drivers, 9 in every cabinet, mostly firing toward the wall behind them. The whole direct reflecting idea was to make the sound wrap around the room instead of shooting straight at you. They usually sit on those beautiful tulip stands, and man, they look cool. The first time you sit down in front of a properly set up pair of 901S, it's a totally different feeling. The music doesn't come from 2 boxes anymore. It kind of surrounds you and fills the whole space. You lose that super sharp left-right imaging, but you gain this big, immersive, almost live-like soundstage. I remember hearing them in a basement years ago and just thinking, wow, the music is everywhere. With the right EQ settings, the bass can get surprisingly full and the vocals sit nice and forward. A lot of people still swear by them for parties or relaxed listening because the sound just blankets the room in a really engaging way. Of course, they're not perfect. They need careful placement and that external equalizer to really shine. Without good setup, they can sound thin or uneven. They also like decent power, but when everything clicks, they create a listening experience that very few other speakers can match. I've always thought the Marantz 2270 is a sweet match. It has enough power, and the pre-out, main-in connections make using the Bose EQ simple and effective. Together, they just work. Whether you end up loving or hating the Bose 901, one thing is for sure, you'll never forget the first time you heard them. They're bold, different, and still causing arguments after all these decades. Definitely one you need to experience for yourself. Dahlquist DQ-10, the mad scientist speaker. All right? If you like your speakers looking normal and conservative, you might want to brace yourself for this next one. Say hello to the wonderfully weird Dahlquist DQ-10. This thing looks like it was built in a mad scientist's garage. No normal box. Instead, you've got an open baffle with drivers mounted separately, big woofer down low. Then mid-range, tweeter, and super tweeter all arranged in a special phased array. It's bizarre, but that crazy design is exactly why it sounds so special. When you listen to the DQ-10, the first thing that hits you is how incredibly open and spacious it is, because there's no box. The music seems to float freely in the air in front of you. Piano sounds grand and real. Acoustic instruments have beautiful body and natural decay, and vocals just hang in the room with this effortless quality. I've had friends come over, put on some live Elton John or Billy Joel, and they couldn't believe how wide and three-dimensional everything sounded. It's not the speaker for chest-pounding bass, but for soundstage, air, and realism with acoustic music. It's pure magic. The DQ-10 shines best in medium-sized rooms with a little breathing space. It loves good recordings. Jazz, classical, singer-songwriter stuff. Pair it with something like the Yamaha CA-2010, and the whole presentation opens up even more. That combo is seriously addictive. Whenever you get the chance to hear a clean pair of Dahlquist DQ-10S, jump on it right away. These things look like they were built in a mad scientist's garage, but they deliver some of the most beautiful, spacious, and magical sound you'll ever hear. Proof that sometimes the weirdest looking speakers turn out to be the biggest hidden gems. Magnepan Ribbon Magic from Minnesota. Now, we have something truly special. The Magnepan, these speakers are still hand-built up in Minnesota, and for decades they've stuck with their ribbon panel design. No traditional cones at all, just thin wires running up and down a large flat panel that vibrates to create the entire frequency range. The first time you sit in front of a good pair of Maggies, it messes with your head in the best way. The music doesn't seem to come out of the speakers. It just materializes in the space between them like it's being conjured out of thin air. There's no box coloration, no obvious separation between drivers. Everything blends together with this incredible speed and transparency. The mid-range and highs are ridiculously detailed and fast, and even the bass is surprisingly respectable for a panel speaker. I've auditioned them at audio labs and just sat there smiling. It feels less like listening to speakers and more like you're sitting in the middle of the performance. They do need room to breathe and a good, powerful amp to wake them up fully. Bass won't shake the walls like a big JBL. But what they do with clarity, speed, and soundstage is special. I've always liked them with the Harman Kardon Citation 16, plenty of clean power that lets those ribbons really sing. Once you hear a good pair of Magnepan speakers, you'll get why so many people become lifetime fans. They offer one of the most unique and memorable listening experiences in all of hi-fi. Pioneer HPM 100, the West Coast powerhouse. Now let's head to the West Coast with one of the most exciting speakers of the late 70s, the Pioneer HPM 100. This thing was a beast. It featured a massive 1-2-inch carbon fiber woofer, a horn tweeter, and those distinctive silver cones that looked like they belonged on a spaceship. Pioneer marketed it as a high-efficiency, high-power speaker, and it delivered exactly that. When you turn these up, they come alive with huge dynamics and serious punch. The bass is big, fast, and authoritative. The mids are forward and energetic, perfect for rock and pop. On Audio Karma, many owners say the HPM 100 is one of the most fun speakers they've owned. It loves to play loud and rewards you with scale and excitement. One reviewer mentioned that with a strong receiver, the HPM 100 can fill a big room and still stay controlled. They work best in larger spaces where they can stretch out. Sensitivity is high, so even medium-powered amps can drive them well. But they really wake up with big power. A classic pairing is with Pioneer's own big receivers like the SX1980 or SX1250. That combination is pure 1970s West Coast magic. I still remember the first time I cranked up a pair of HPM 100S. The room just came alive with that big, bold West Coast sound. It's not the most refined speaker out there, but it's incredibly fun and instantly brings back that classic crank-it-up feeling. ADS L810, my personal reference speaker. Coming near the end of our list is the speaker. I personally keep coming back to the ADS L810. ADS Acoustic Design Systems built some of the cleanest, most balanced speakers of the late 70s and early 80s. The L810 features excellent drivers, beautiful cabinet work, and those signature metal grills that scream quality. It's a three-way design that just gets so many things right. What always impresses me is how balanced and neutral these sound. Nothing jumps out at you. The bass, mids, and highs are all in perfect harmony. You can listen to any kind of music and it just sounds right. Detail is excellent without being harsh. Imaging is precise, and the overall presentation is incredibly smooth. On forums, owners often call the L810 one of the most honest vintage speakers. I've had mine for years now, and I still haven't found anything I'd rather use as my daily reference. They perform beautifully in medium to large rooms and work with a huge variety of music. My favorite pairing is the Sansui AU 20000. That big Japanese integrated amp has the power, control, and slight warmth that makes the L810 sing. Together, they're my desert island combo. I could happily listen to anything on them forever. If you want a high-quality, versatile, and truly enjoyable speaker that still looks and sounds modern, the ADS L810 is hard to beat. Dynaco A-25, the surprise value king. And to close out this list, I want to leave you with a surprise, a speaker that punches way above its price tag even today, the Dynaco A-25. This little Danish-designed, American-assembled bookshelf from the early 70s is one of the best-kept secrets in vintage audio. It uses a 10-inch woofer and a simple dome tweeter in a sealed cabinet, nothing crazy on paper. But the sound is shockingly good. People on classic speaker pages and Reddit regularly say the A-25 offers amazing clarity, natural tone, and surprisingly good bass for its small size. It's warm, smooth, and very easy to listen to for long periods. One owner summed it up perfectly. It doesn't do anything spectacularly, but it does everything really well. It's especially strong with acoustic music, jazz, and vocals. Because they're efficient and easy to drive, even small tube amps or modest receivers make them sing. They're perfect for smaller rooms or as part of a second system. The best part, you can often find good pairs for very little money. In a world where good vintage speakers are getting expensive, the Dynaco A-25 remains one of the biggest bargains out there. So there you have it, 12 very different but wonderful vintage speakers you really should hear before you die. Some are wild, some are refined, but all of them have something special to offer. Thanks for watching. I'm Ray Cole from Legend Audio. Let me know in the comments which one you want to hear most. See you in the next one.